It is hot today. Oh my goodness. If I look like I'm struggling with heat, I probably am. Anyway, welcome back to my channel, guys. I hope you're doing well. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Emily, and this channel is all about living abroad, life abroad, being an expat, immigrant, life in Canada, because that's where I live now, and just things I learn about Canada, trips that I go on in Canada, around Canada, outside of Canada, pretty much just whatever I think you guys will find interesting. So if you do enjoy that kind of content, please don't forget to check out my channel. I've just hit 500 subscribers, which to me is wild. I know to a lot of people that's not that much, but to me, like, that is mind-blowing, and honestly, every time somebody subscribes, it literally makes my day. So if you do enjoy that, stick around, subscribe to the channel. I post videos every single week. Okay, so getting on to the video. Today's video is going to be another kind of comparison video. I know that you guys like those kind of things. You like to hear about differences between different countries, and obviously I'm from England and I live in Canada, so I can quite often do comparisons between the two. Today's comparison is going to be different ones I've done before, and it's a really, really interesting one, and this is cultural differences about the UK and Canada. I know this is going to differ from different parts of the UK and different parts of Canada, but these are just my personal experiences, things that I have personally noticed that are different between the two countries. So it'll be really interesting to see if any of you guys agree with me, or if you're shocked by any, or if you disagree. And if you do have any comments about them, let me know in the comments below. I do try to get back to everybody. So yeah, let me know. I would love to hear your thoughts. So the first culture shock or cultural difference that I noticed when I got to Canada, and I noticed this one very quickly because, well, actually I noticed this like straight out of the airport. And that is that in the UK, when you greet somebody, even if you don't really know them, if they're a stranger, you tend to give them hugs. Or at least, I don't know, I always gave people hugs, especially if it was like a friend of a friend that you're meeting, or like you knew briefly, or they're an acquaintance. I'm not sure if this is just my own experience, but in the UK, I tend to always greet people with a hug. And in Canada, that is not the case. Usually it's a handshake. And this was something that I found really interesting, because in the UK, I tend to always have, even if I'd just met somebody, I would like give them a hug to say hello. Maybe not necessarily a complete stranger, but if it was like, say, a friend of a friend or a family member of a friend, to say to when you meet someone, Brits tend to give each other hugs more, whereas in Canada that doesn't happen. It's almost always a handshake. And I feel like in the UK, outside of my profession, I would never give anybody a handshake. I would soon rather just like wave at somebody than give them a handshake. So learning to give handshakes when you meet somebody was definitely a cultural difference, and this one I'm really interested in to hear what you guys think, because is this just my own experience, or do people in Canada give hugs when they meet people, or is it always a handshake? Yeah, let me know. That would be really interesting. But that's something that I found very different, was that when you meet somebody in the UK for the first time, especially if it was like a friend's friend or family member, you would hug them when you first met them. But in Canada, it's almost always a handshake. That was an interesting one for me. The next cultural difference that I found moving to Canada from the UK was in restaurants. So in the UK, when you finish your meal, a server will not bring you the bill until you ask for it. From someone who worked in hospitality in the UK, I would never have brought a table a bill unless they asked for it. It's seen as rude in the UK. It's almost as if your server's trying to usher you out, it feels like, in the UK. But in Canada, as soon as you're done with your meal and you've kind of made it obvious that you don't want anything, they'll usually come around and ask you if you want anything else. And if you say no, even without asking, they bring you the bill. Almost always I've found this happen. When this first happened, I was so offended, which is so funny, because luckily I had my boyfriend, who was Canadian, with me at the time, and I was like, do they always do this? Like, are they trying to get rid of us? And he was just like, no, this is just normal. So that was something that I had to get over, because in the UK that would definitely be seen as rude, or at least in my opinion, in my own experience, that would be seen as a rude thing for a server to come over after your meal and give you a bill that you hadn't asked for. But in Canada, that's just the way that it is. It's actually seen as being more convenient, because you don't have to ask for it, you can pay for it and then just chill. They're not necessarily ushering you out, obviously, unless you have like a table time limit that you have, or a time slot. But usually it's kind of, you just pay and you chill and then you can just walk out. So I guess it's seen as more convenient, whereas in the UK that would be seen as rude. So that's definitely a cultural difference that I found moving to Canada. The next one is also kind of in restaurants, but more so in bars, and that is the difference between when in the UK you would buy rounds. So you go to the bar, or if you were even in a restaurant, if everyone was having drinks, like one person would buy a round, like a round for everybody, like a drink for everyone, and then the next round someone else would buy it and someone else would buy it. So everyone would end up buying a round of drinks for everybody, and that's just very, very common in the UK, but not so much in Canada. I found that splitting bills is much more common in Canada. It was always such a pain in the UK, especially at a restaurant or a bar, to split a bill. It was just kind of seen as very inconvenient for the server. But in Canada, and I think this is also in North America too, because I found this very often in the United States, is that splitting bills is so normal. It's almost just assumed it will happen if there's multiple people. I've never worked in hospitality in North America, but what I've heard is that in Canada at least, rather than having a table bill like what you would have in the UK, they do it by seat. So every seat on a table has a different number, and when you order, the server just puts it in through that number. So it's very, very easy for the server to split the bill. But in the UK, they don't do that. They do it by table, so it's a lot more hassle for a server to split the bill. So yeah, that was a really interesting one, and it's definitely, I prefer the way that Canadians do it because it makes it so much easier when you're, especially for dinner, if you're going out with friends and you can just split the bill. The next difference about Canada and the UK, cultural difference, and this is more to do with kind of outdoorsy things and going on walks. So in Canada, most people, if you're going out for a walk, I feel like it's more of a hike usually in Canada. You know, you get your hiking boots and your backpack and your gear, and you go out for a hike. You maybe bring like some sandwiches or whatever with you to like have when you get to the top, and then you come back down. So you go on like a kind of not always an intensive hike. I think hike sounds very like you're going on a big adventure and you're taking your hiking boots and your stick and you're spending hours in a mountain, which really isn't the case. It is just kind of a nice walk. But in the UK, rather than hikes, and I guess it's because we don't have as many mountains and things like that, it's a lot of like country walks and then going to the pub afterwards. That's such a common thing to do in the UK. I feel especially on a Sunday, you go out for a country walk, like a long country walk in the countryside, especially in Yorkshire where I'm originally from. And then afterwards you would go to the pub and have like Sunday dinner or have some drinks or whatever. Whereas in Canada, that's not really a thing. You wouldn't go for a hike really and then go for dinner. It'd be more like food on the go, like a picnic, or you'd bring some sandwiches. Whereas in the UK, I don't think I've ever done that unless I was specifically going out for a picnic, which doesn't tend to happen because in the UK you can't really tell what the weather's going to be like. So perhaps it's a weather difference, I'm not sure, but it was definitely a cultural difference that I found moving to Canada from the UK. So the next one is more about houses. In the UK, there's a lot of older houses. There are a lot of kind of Victorian houses. It's not uncommon to have houses that are over 100 years old. Like I've lived in a house that was over 100 years old. In fact, I think it was much older than 100 years old. I'm not sure, but it was definitely older than 100 years. So it's very common to have these older houses that are perhaps not very well insulated. They don't always have double glazing, so it gets kind of cold. And heating is very expensive in the UK. They tend to have a boiler system in the UK. So it was a lot of, you know, closing the doors when you come into the house and putting your heater on a timer and saving the water when you go in the shower. I don't know about you, but when I was growing up especially, we would have like the boiler, because I was out in the countryside, we'd have the boiler of hot water, and you had to be super careful because if you took a shower that was too long, then nobody else in the house would have hot water and they'd have to wait a few hours before it heated up again. So it was very like, you're always trying to conserve the heat and keep the windows closed and turn off all the lights. Whereas in Canada, I feel like that's just not the same. In Canada, a lot of the buildings are newer. They're definitely built for more extreme weather, whether that is heat like right now, or freezing cold in the wintertime. In Toronto especially, houses and buildings are just a lot warmer or a lot cooler depending on the season. I mean, right now it's freaking boiling in here because we don't have air conditioning, but I'm generally, because I guess the houses are newer, there's just not that much, I feel, conserving of energy. I mean, I feel like I was brought up by trying to turn off all the lights all the time, so I by nature try to conserve energy, but we don't have a radiator system in Canada, or it's not very common to have a radiator system in Canada like it would be in the UK, where you would heat up the house with your radiator with the hot water. But rather than radiators in Canada, it tends to be what I have found forced air, which I imagine might be cheaper. I think it runs on gas, like gas powered, I'm not sure, or hydro. A lot of places run off hydro, which is water power. So for example, in Toronto, we had hydropower that came from Niagara Falls, which I think is really, really cool. So I don't know if that contributes to the cost of heat and water in Canada, but I feel like in Canada, the buildings get a lot warmer a lot quicker just based on the forced air heating system and then air conditioning in the wintertime. So you don't have that whole trying to conserve, trying to keep the heat in the house because, you know, houses are better insulated and the windows are always double glazed. So they're just, I guess they're a lot more energy efficient than the UK. So yeah, that was definitely a cultural difference between Canada and the UK. And that's really funny because in the UK, the weather is very temperate, right? So it never really gets really, really hot or really, really cold. But I feel like I was always cold in the UK, especially in like the autumn, winter and spring. It was always cold in your house, whereas in Canada, I feel like in the wintertime, you're always warm in your house. Another cultural difference between Canada and the UK is to do with the rain. Now, I live in British Columbia and it is very well known for its rain. And as I've told you before, Victoria doesn't really get that, but the rest of British Columbia definitely does get a lot of rain. And obviously the UK gets a lot of rain too, so they're very similar in that perspective. But the difference between Canada and the UK is that in the UK, I feel like even if it rains, people will still go outside and do things. Like the rain will not stop them. You just get an umbrella, you get your wellies, whatever, your raincoat, you're good to go. No, like rain doesn't stop you from doing stuff. Whereas I feel like in Canada, if it rains, people will cancel plans. It's kind of similar to like how in the UK when it snows, people like everything stops, and in Canada it keeps on going. I feel like Canadians are very, very adverse to the rain. They don't like the rain. It's like this really bad thing, and like if it's raining, I never see anybody outside. Whereas I feel like in the UK, everybody would still go outside. It wouldn't really bother people as much, and perhaps that's why I belong in British Columbia, because it does rain in the wintertime. But that's definitely a difference, is that in the UK, if it rains, people still do whatever they're gonna do, plans still go ahead. But in Canada, I feel like people are a little bit more adverse to rain. They will happily cancel plans if it's raining. So the next one is one that Mike, my boyfriend, brought up, and it's really funny because I didn't even think about this one, and that is to do with banter. So in the UK, it's very, very common to just, with your friends especially, to have banter. So that's basically making fun of each other, but in a affectionate way. If you're with your friends and you have banter with them, you just kind of make fun of them, and it's kind of like just friendly. That's just how people act in the UK. But in Canada, I feel like that is not the case. And Canadians are known to be very, very nice, but I feel like banter, if you make fun of people in Canada, or generally, this is obviously generally speaking, I know not everybody is like this, but I feel like in Canada, banter is not a thing. Sarcasm is not really a thing. Some people do have, are sarcastic and do have banter, but nowhere near as much as the UK. And I feel like when I first came here, I didn't really realize this, and I feel like I offended a lot of people just being who I was, and I feel like my banter now is way, way less than it used to be. And I feel like going back to the UK now, I'm probably going to see it from a Canadian's point of view and be like, oh my gosh, that's so mean and so offensive. But in the UK, if you're a Canadian or an American and you go to the UK and people are like making fun of you, like playfully making fun of you, it is an affectionate thing. That's just how we act as Brits. But in Canada, Brits, if you're coming to Canada or America, that doesn't really happen, so maybe just tone it down. I feel like that was a life lesson that I had to learn, and I did learn it the hard way, but that's definitely a cultural difference between the two. Another cultural difference is answering phones. So this one, and I don't even know if I'm going to say it right because it's been so long that I've answered the phone in the way that I did in the UK that I can't remember what I used to say anymore. But when I used to talk on the phone in the UK, I'd pick it up, I'd be like, hey, you all right? Like, you all right? Or even when you saw someone, like, hey, you all right? So that's just like a standard thing that we would say in the UK. And that's just how we would greet people on the phone or in real life in the UK. In Canada, if you say you all right, they immediately think that something is wrong. Again, this is another thing that I learned the hard way. And this was a very, very hard one to get over, especially answering the phone. Because when you answer the phone, it's just like a natural thing. And I'd always be like, hey, you all right? And it would always catch people off guard. Like, people would stop and they'd be like, yeah, why? And it was so hard to get over, but you're all right is the equivalent of how are you in the UK. But in Canada, you would say, hey, how are you? And that sounds so formal to me, and I had to get over it, and it was so funny because I remember trying to get over this and being like, picking up the phone especially and be like, hey, how are you? And just not being able to get it. I think I've definitely got better at it now, and I do tend to answer the phone that way now, but that was definitely a cultural difference. If you say you all right, like a question to a Canadian, or I guess an American too, they usually think that something is wrong. Like, you all right? Yeah, I'm fine. It's just, do I look bad? No. It's just the way that you greet people. But in Canada, if you want to ask that question, it's how are you? Weird English Canadian things that I learned the hard way, so hopefully you don't have to. And finally, another cultural difference about the UK and Canada, and I think this is gonna change because I think that places in the UK are definitely adopting this North American cultural thing, and that is how big high school and kindergarten graduations are, especially high school. In the UK, in high school, we had a prom. That was seen as very American, but we did not have a graduation. We just left high school and that was it. We had some like shirt signings and that was pretty much it. But in Canada, high school graduation is massive. It is like in the UK when we have our graduation ceremonies for university. It's basically like that. I would say actually it might even be bigger. People have their graduation gowns, they have their ceremonies, they get dressed up. A lot of places even have these signs that they put outside their house saying, insert school name here, graduate lives here. And they're very proud of it. It's a really, really big deal. Whereas in the UK, not so much. I feel like your university graduation is definitely bigger, but in the UK you would never get a high school graduation, or at least you never used to. I feel like that is changing now. I think that the UK is starting to adopt more of that American culture, but as I'm filming right now, they definitely make a bigger deal about those high school graduations and even kindergarten graduations. Kindergarten, I sound so Canadian. Kindergarten is like reception or year one, I think, in the UK. But they definitely make a bigger deal about graduation ceremonies in high school here than they do in the UK. Anyway, I really hope that you enjoyed this video. Oh my gosh, it's so hot. It's really funny because I did not complain, but I did say that the one thing that I missed about Ontario and Toronto was the summer nights, and now I'm like immediately regretting saying that because it's so warm. But I really hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that it was informative or interesting or entertaining. If you agree with any of these, or you disagree, or you have others, please let me know in the comments below. That would be so awesome to hear, and I do try to get back to everybody, so if you have a comment or a question, let me know and I will get back to you. And as I say, I post videos every single week. I do things like this, I do vlogs, just anything and everything to do with living abroad and living in Canada and traveling and all that fun kind of stuff. So if you are into that, please don't forget to hit like on this video and check out my channel and subscribe to see more. It also really helps to push these videos to other people that might be interested too, and it really helps me out, and it really genuinely it makes my day. So thank you to those of you who have already liked and subscribed and commented. It honestly means the world. Until my next video, I hope you have the most wonderful day, and I will see you again very soon. Bye!